Hey, welcome to Next Meta, a podcast and a newsletter about on-chain economies, coordination, most effective tactics, and the bigger picture. Serious topics and a not-so-serious host. Hope you enjoy. All right, welcome Ross to the Next Meta podcast. It's been a long time.
Definitely a long time, and good to be chatting again. A lot of moving plates.
Yeah, Ross here was one of the speakers on the very first ever event that I organized, which was back in like 2019 or something, when he first started the Legs DAO. So yeah, we go way back. And I want to kick it off with a question of what keeps you here in this space after all of these years?
Yeah, I was saying that's a great question. I think people are fair to ask anyone who's stayed after more than one cycle, like what keeps you grinding. Either it's a factor of like you have bags and you're a bag holder, but I would say like in a professional sense, and kind of like my primary reason for joining the space was to solve problems around automation. My start was as a lawyer, joined from a law firm, joined Open Law Consensus, and we were looking at just automation of just like what even the law is and how to fill out basic documents. I still think like certain problems in the legal space still have to be solved and be solved with crypto. So for me, it's like a very different time horizon. If you look at crypto as like a solution to trust, and you look at still the financial system, governments, places where people are relying on each other to do what they agreed to do, the law of agreements. Crypto, I think, still has a big role to play, and we still have a lot of trust left to automate. So, yeah, I guess like my reason for sticking around is I think there's asymmetric upside for people that can stay in the game, keep some skin, in the network, as it were, accept crypto, pay with crypto, earn crypto, build crypto. The asymmetric upside I see is like building the foundations of systems that in a lot of ways seem inevitable if you consider more global, more connected economies and the need to remove politics and other sorts of censorship that just provide problems for ordinary people. And I think, a lot of state actors, a lot of developers, a lot of lawyers see a lot of this coming, regardless, like I said, some inevitabilities and the trends of where the internet has taken us already with freedom of information. Now, freedom of finance, freedom of association, I think is like being, constructed from first principles, like almost like we're getting to like rewrite the social contract at large, as all like citizens of the internet. So if I were to leave the space, I knew like, even after like two cycles, just seeing the ICO boom, NFT boom, little wrinkles around DAOs, people starting to coordinate using the tech and use smart contracts to settle agreements. Just the earliness of that still and the scope of the problems to solve. Like if I had left at any point even now, I would have professional FOMO just to come right back in because I'd be like, oh, like somebody who like knows about smart contracts, knows about social issues that can be resolved by smart contracts. They need to be in there like on the ground and kind of hopefully build these things from first principles and not reintroduce trust and reintroduce gatekeepers and rent seeking back into the crypto economy. So I hope that rambling
Yeah,
answer is somewhat uh elucidating on the weirdness of somebody being in
yeah,
crypto for longer than one cycle.
yeah. Definitely echoes
Yeah.
with my own thing as well. Like, no matter how frustrating it can get, like, where else can we go? Like,
Mm. Yeah,
what
you're stuck
other,
here.
yeah,
Yeah.
what other industry that's like as interesting that we could
Hotel
get into?
California.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. And but
Yeah, I'm,
yes,
I'm happy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
No
Go. Yeah.
complaining, no complaining. Although there have been moments, there have been moments.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you don't have the battle scars by this point, then what are you even doing?
Yeah.
We had FTX Luna after I like had started a new project. That was always fun to explain to people not in crypto why I would even consider doing this during those times. But yeah, not to cut you off. We've had a lot of interesting market breakdowns, social breakdowns of trust, figureheads come and go. We have the main character as a meme in crypto specifically. It's a cursed mark.
It always
If you
goes
get up a
up
lot of
and
attention, yeah, every project has main character energy, and yeah, for me, it's like I'm kind of glad to not be a main character. Maybe for a little bit longer. It is a curse we like to
Not yet.
bestow upon project founders. Yeah, I mean, there's a long game here, of course, but these current very intense cycles seem to have very little patience for people's plans or other things like that.
Yeah. It's
So
also
play cool.
there's also crazy amount of repeating the mistakes. Like for example, the Solana DAO ecosystem doesn't exist yet, so now they're like basically starting to build DAOs for the first time, and they don't have like all the tooling, like the Moloch V3. They don't have no concept of rage
Hmm.
quit, no heads protocol or anything like that. So they're just like struggling and failing for the reasons that we failed back in like 2019. But
It is like, yeah, yeah, go on.
no, no, I just
It goes to the earliness of it. Yeah. Mm.
yeah. They
Like
will
running on a
learn.
standard.
They will learn.
Um,
I wanted to
yeah,
go
yeah.
on, go on.
No, no, I was gonna make like an off-color comment. We can be cool about Solana.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask you actually about the Wyoming LLC DAO stuff. Like, so you were one of
Hmm.
the people who co-wrote the legislation, and you were the
Yeah.
first person to
So,
deploy the
so
like a DAO with legal wrapper.
this is yeah. This is a fun lore on Ross Campbell. So yeah, like early in my career, I was a corporate attorney, as I said before, and when I was looking at smart contracts, is like literally the best way to just take an operating agreement and like actually put it into a program that could run and like avoid a lot of what people are doing with LLCs. So when I joined Open Law, actually as a community contributor, I was like just spamming their Discord and adding forms to their library. Me and a couple other community contributors, ex-lawyers, mostly people who were jaded with the practice, but still saw the value in like sort of like open source common law. We created a LLC amongst ourselves as co-founders. We did freelancing through it, but we used DAO technology. And as far as I know, it's the first example of an LLC DAO. And we deployed using a legal wrapper that we still have hosted on the Open Law Library for an LLC that's member managed, but the membership shares, the membership units are actually depicted using ERC20 tokens that are votable. We use the Aragon DAO stack to start. Moloch actually had not yet been launched, but we shifted our projects to Moloch DAO after that had launched for like LLC DAO and other projects because of the flexibility of the framework, very simple, and also just like the developer creative energy that I saw there. And still, I'm a big fan of the framework. And like you said, like Rage Quit is still being rediscovered each cycle. And I think like these basic like primitives of DAOs of what we've learned from smart contracts and with like real money in these systems, being spent to pay developers through like Red Guild and being used to make like real investments like Metacartel Ventures and the Lao. We've seen like the law and the code catch up in a very short fashion. The LLC DAO framework that Open Law helped push in Wyoming, the Wyoming DAO bill, I think helped sort of like clarify and ratify these patterns, for the general public. So what I saw as like something that might have been like scope creep by lawyers in the space was like, let's all write our own, DAO operating agreement, but not share it, or, things like that. I never found very useful the black box approach of law, where everyone has their own forms, their own secret sauce on how to do something like DAO legal setup. So the Open Law Project, and with the Wyoming DAO legislation, it basically canonized a lot of crypto law concepts in a format there you can just notify the Secretary of State that you want to file as a DAO LLC, and it imports a lot of the ideas such as limiting fiduciary responsibility amongst DAO members, as well as using smart contracts to actually like record votes and other practical necessities. I still have a sort of like more private law view on a lot of these things. I think that DAO legislation, like they have in Wyoming, other states like Tennessee, are useful, but they're not strictly necessary. So I've encouraged people who feel like they can't get like legal benefits, who want to still operate semi anonymously or a little bit more autonomously, to still look at smart contracts and look at like associational law that leaves a lot of the details amongst people, amongst DAO members, that they want to enforce to their agreements. So not to get too much into like legal theory crafting, but there's a concept of like public law, which is like LLC statutes, active legislation, the law in the books, what we all kind of ascribe to and recognize, such as the legal fiction of a company even existing in the first place. We all have to like buy into that hallucination, which is generally useful, right? Apple can own things as Apple. We agree to hallucination as public law. Private law is like hallucinations and agreements we can have separately and amongst ourselves. We don't even need to disclose those agreements necessarily to the public. So when I look at like smart contracts, when I look at like principal agent relationships, which you can get to with Nani OS, I see the acceleration, helped by DAO laws of just basically treating smart contracts as law. And I've seen Ryan Adams, other KOL types in the space, kind of elucidate that understanding that like smart contracts are law for robots, basically because you can deal with finance and you don't have to necessarily care about who is on the other end of that transaction. It can be a legal entity, a corporation. It can be literally a program like an LLM running in a secure enclave somewhere. It could be an alien, it could be a mutant. It doesn't matter. The smart contract is the law, and it will allow people who otherwise cannot trust each other because maybe they have to disclose private information to actually come to consensus and do things. So legal theory crafting into like practical applications, that has been sort of like a focus of mine. And so the LexDAO thesis is you get enough smart people looking at the same problems, sharing their work, and you tend to come up with creative solutions that are adaptive to the times. And through open source, they can be like actually elaborated and made a lot more useful more quickly. I've generally found the open source is like, yeah, the end all be all for a lot of efforts. There are of course reasons to have, you know, private software, security reasons, but for solving like smart contract problems at large, I think it's very bad when you see a smart contract that's not even verified on Etherscan. So that's kind of like in my sense, like we can publish the operating systems for new types of governance, new governments even as smart contract code, and we can like build people, agents, all kinds of different checkerboards of relationships on top of these like systems. So I guess like kind of like the thread, like my research concerns and what I actually like to build and what I like to consult and do is like the legal theory of agreements, private P2P finance, and then building information systems around that like are sturdy enough to actually handle like production, code as law use cases. Code as law use cases, and that can bring us to non-US, is like, can I get another actor to do exactly what I want them to do with my finances? And can I come to a place where I can trust even like, robots or programs to do things with my money? How do we get there from like a theory, in terms of relationships, agreements, and can we do that in a way that's actually a product as well? Um, so yeah, I
Mm.
mean, a lot there to pick apart, but we have a transcript, I guess.
Yeah,
Let's
one
can like elaborate. Yeah.
one cool way that had Gabriel Shapiro like a few months ago here. And then
Nice.
one way to explain it that he used was how Web3 is a move from the law being about rights and obligations to being about powers and incentives, and how it's like
Hmm.
we have encoded law in the smart contracts in a way that like it can't be broken, it can just be used or not used, or like things that can be leveraged or not
That's
leveraged, but there's a limit.
that, that checks out. Yeah, and I kind of like ascribe to his theory that like we're kind of just flipping the law into its most raw pure form in that sense, because like classical agreements operate on incentives. If you don't obey your end of the bargain or you break certain rules, you face financial disincentives. You might be fined, or you might actually lose your property or your freedom. We
Right, but there's that
operate
need
with
for
incentives at all
enforcement. Like
times.
there's the need for
Exactly.
enforcement from
Yeah.
outside, whereas here it's like there's no need for that because it's like
Self-contained.
yeah.
Yeah. It's the essence. It is like actually a very big deal, and that's why like I feel like losing the forest for the trees and some of the bubbles and some of the things you can't miss that you have self-contained execution environments
Right.
for what people agreed to do. It's a very big deal, I would say. And I echo Gabe on that.
And so yeah, you were doing that, and then part of the reason that was also part of the reason why we did Kali GG to like make it as easy as possible for other people to also spin up their own legal wrappers for other DAOs.
Yeah, no, that was the impetus was will DAO LLCs just become a proprietary solution that gets black box, and overcharged and not as useful as the technology could offer. So with KaliCo GG, we basically wanted to have like a Lao factory where you can call our smart contracts. You can also use our UI to generate IPFS hosted documentation of what you're trying to do with your organizational smart contracts and actually deploy those as like a DAO token with a treasury with a very simple voting interface. Sort of like, yeah, like new company tech, but make it as like open as we could, given the constraints of like time and resources. Using the IPFS and Ethereum blockchain gets you a lot of mileage, actually. I would say for people considering lean startups and testing out some of these ideas. But yeah, we built, like I said, the Lao Factory, a legal organization creator tool. We also created wrapper NFTs, which was, I think, the first instantiation of using an NFT to memorialize a legal filing. In our case, the legal filing was recognition of creating a series LLC under our master filings in Wyoming, or more recently, Delaware and Marshall Islands. So these are things like I think are like kind of like tools in the toolbox of like crypto law that should be like almost like commodities. They should be like fixtures that are available to people to solve very specific kinds of like legal tasks, like giving people shares or something like that. That should be a smart contract, and that should be easy to access, and it should be easy to access complementary like legal forms to do what myself and Gabe and other entrepreneurs are doing, which is basically, can we make primitives out of crypto law, and can we productize around those primitives? For me, the most important primitive is, yeah, the organizational smart contract. And that has bled into kind of the Nani OS design, in that each account could potentially be a company, or it could just be an individual account. It's up to you how you configure your smart account, basically. So you can use token voting. We support that through our instantiation of Dagon, which is a singleton that basically allows smart accounts to upgrade into token voting. So you can have like a multi-sig and have NFTs attached to the multi-sig rights to sign, and you can add weights even to each NFT. So one co-founder might have more shares than another. So the legal tech and the legal organizational side of things, I think, will always be there and kind of be reduced into core primitives, like voting or transferring an asset under restriction. But yeah, the Kali GG thing is basically like, can we make legal tech on chain and make that prolific and open and available to people, and kind of follow the trend of Wikipedia, for law. But this all, kind of brings into the brainworm of like why I think like agents are so important, is like I can create technology to represent diverse constituencies, members, shareholders. But if the new types of companies might be completely automated or managed by AI, or like supplemented to such a degree that they look substantially different, you kind of want to encounter the new type of company head on, and understand what that will actually look like. So using Kali GG as a backdrop of like the theory crafting, practical application of crypto legal tools, using those crypto legal tools, then and create a new company called Nani DAO LLC. Not to get too crazy with the org chart here, but we create a DAO LLC using our crypto legal tools. And the task of that DAO LLC is like, go as hard as possible on agents and automation of intelligence. This seems like actually a big deal for anybody that's considered law, or any other field for that matter, at this current point in time. Go as hard on that, and create an ownership concept that's like somewhat crypto legally secure, and then allow that to proliferate, and be more of like a public fixture, in the same sense that I see Kali GG as hosting an on-chain open law, where you have NFTs for companies, you have voting contracts, you have NFTs represent escrow deals. On-chain open law is one concept, but the other concept is who is managing deals, who is running companies. I think those will be augmented boards of directors that use AI as co-chair, or help run meetings, summarize the objectives and priorities of the shareholders, and then get things to be reviewed by a CEO or a board, the ultimate operators. Or, and what I want to push with Nani DAO LLC is, can we give the AI increasing control and discretion over a company, such that it becomes like a core stakeholder and maybe even the CEO and authority figure itself. So those are nascent concepts, I would say. And part of what we've done, at least in the legal theory side of things, is we're pushing in Wyoming for legal recognition of basically like a zero member LLC that's still technically owned by an AI agent, and see if we can get recognition of a legal personhood for AI itself that way. And that would be a first. And we've approached the Wyoming Secretary and Sandbox about that particular project. But not to distract from the product side of actually bringing agentic capabilities to wallets. Like we can go into that, but this is all to say that like a lot of my work does interrelate in terms of like what I see as theoretically important, like fundamentally enabling peer-to-peer finance, peer-to-peer governance, you know, freedom of association to leave and join organizations. These are all like important concepts, but when I look at the current market and the current needs and how my intended users will inevitably change, the emphasis in Nani is, can we build like an ownership structure and public participation point on this topic of crypto AI? Necessarily it will envelop law as well. And can we do that in a way that's like iterative and substantially rooted in actually building software rather than like, pure hype? To our credit, we had been exploring GPT in the Kali apps before any of this like AI agent meta. Merely, we had a GPT assistant to answer questions about LLCs and DAOs, and that was helpful, for me personally, because like fielding different user questions is complex, but fielding different user questions on legal topics is like necessarily more complex. So an AI assistant, just from our perspective, was like our intern, for our own company. And then yeah, we saw like really good applications of an AI cosigner, for our company, as well as like as a product, an AI cosigner for your company wallet and an AI cosigner for your personal wallet. Those all felt like very, very useful directions to like build in advance. Yeah. And I think it's good that we like sort of built things from like first principles and looked at the overall theory of what we want to accomplish, for end users, and have proceeded more from like a product perspective. Now we're at like a marketing point where like the general market does seem appreciative of the narratives that are related to what we've been building, and we do want to tap into that, of course. But I do think the technology will shift the narratives, and the dog will wag the tail, as it were, given these different hype cycles. And I would rather be the dog wagging the tail, in this scenario. To give some sneak peek where I want to go with this.
But
Ideally, like level up a lot. Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. But I wanted to ask you, like, so you kind of
Hmm.
answered some bits of your inspiration, but was there like any specific point that made you go like, okay, fuck it, we're doing this now?
Oh, like
Like
for
any
like
specific
AI?
trigger point, like, okay, we're gonna do this. Like now we're gonna focus on building this
I think
agent OS.
yeah. I think it was like as early as like 3.5 or even GPT-3. I was like, this is smarter than most people I interact with on a daily basis. So like, yeah, that's obviously like, if this continues at any remote pace to its current development, I need to be ahead of this curve. For me personally, I mean, I've told people my galvanizing experience with like crypto security was getting my wallet drained trying to claim an Art Gobbler NFT. And like, aside from the embarrassment of it being an art gobbler, it was like very telling, like how little control you have in an emergency situation, and like how, yeah, like the human brain is not necessarily the smartest when it's like panicking, right? So like, I feeling that panic firsthand, it's not the only time I've ever had issues, but in such an embarrassing visual way. People could see I got fished, and like I even lost a Milady in that attack. I'll never hear the end of that. Um, Experiencing that and then realizing I do need a co-pilot. I do need security, but I don't want to necessarily have a custodian. Like that felt to me like necessary for my personal freedom purposes. So I think it's like, yeah, there's never like one thing. I think in anybody that claims there's like one thing is probably like applying a little bit of editorializing on their own life. But for me, it's like you feel a pull in a certain direction enough. And if you feel like you're capable of like at least doing the thing for yourself, you like follow that direction. The call to adventure is like, okay, like I know a bit about smart contracts. I know a little bit about like organizational theory, agreements. I think AI, if I don't pursue this, as a serious integration point, it would inevitably empower my competitors or eat my startups anyway. So it's like existential dread, personal issues that I would want to solve for myself, as well as just appreciating the quality of the tech and having some basic forecasting that it would improve. And I think we've definitely seen it improve. Like even the open source models like Llama 3.3 is better than GPT 3.5 Turbo was, and that's when we like first started our like little initial like R&D exploration with ChatGPT wrappers. Was like, okay, this is top of the line. It's proprietary though, so it's like not as interesting to us. But when the non-proprietary, like open foundational models started being released, and Zuckerberg pulled that move against OpenAI, it felt like, yeah, there's like live players in this game. There's an arms race. There's an arms race that we can also benefit from. Some companies will want to position themselves as more open. They're willing to do all the training and gather all the data and basically, release models that we can then fine tune, or in our case, jailbreak using certain techniques such as ablation. Um, and yeah, that's way more empowering. So it's like if you actually like see, you know, in a judo jujitsu aspect, very big players in the space creating commodities that you yourself can benefit from and reassemble into like working products to solve your own problems. I think it's on you to do that. You know, you should never like build purely out of theory, but if you like have the available tools and an actual problem on your hands, like every user has crypto security as a problem, and you felt that personally, then I can't like, yeah, I think I've like hopefully justified the sense of a pivot, even though in my mind there is no pivot. There is only like code is law and like sort of the after effects of that seeping into most facets of life. The AI thing is more important to take seriously and head on as like anybody that wants to build a product that lasts more than a year or two. Like if you don't have that on your horizon or on your roadmap, you might be a little bit in denial. Yeah, you might be in denial about like, yeah, your ability to retain your the interest of your contributors, your employees, because they'll be automated or they'll just want to join the automators. That's my perspective. So it's like much more feasible in like a very uncertain dynamic like that to just be the automator, to be the disruptor, right? So that's related to like my thing with like crypto versus law, was like if smart contract practitioners, developers became more important to corporate deal flow than corporate lawyers, then why would I like wait in a law firm for 8 years to maybe make a partner if that entire way of life is like destroyed more or less? That you get the charge to basically be a mother hen on a deal and like make it take like 2 years longer than it should. If that like way of life is just blown out, unsustainable, because it's like almost a pyramid scheme, then you join the disruptors. And I think like there's enough people, and like you yourself, like I'm sure you've seen the call to adventure where it's like these guys are probably gonna win. You might as well join them. And even if they don't win, their cause is like righteous and cool. So it's like why wouldn't you like try it at least, right? Like if you have like any ability or like inclination. So yeah, I mean that's like the original like love letter to crypto, is like people care and people do think things should change, and this is a way to do that. Like not so many opportunities to do that in peaceful way in people's lives, in this kind of like dynamic world. um so yeah, I've often seen crypto as like a way to accelerate radical life changes that are overall very beneficial for most human beings, and to do so in a way that's like mostly consensual, market driven, you know
Right.
an aggregation of everyone's agreements, and then everyone kind of just amends all their agreements in synchronization with crypto assets, becoming more and more important.
Right. And then there's AI
I can
making
see
it
that playing
all
out.
like automating it and making it
Yeah,
easier. But
can smooth the edges out. Yeah,
so
yeah.
imagine I'm like a complete agent skeptic who's like, oh, these are all just GPT wrappers. How would you explain
Mm.
the value proposition of Nani to me in like 30 seconds?
I mean, 30-second pitch is always hard, but I'd be like, have you ever asked your friend to do something for you with crypto, with a private key or your wallet? Probably not, because you can't trust your friend, but even if you have, they've probably made a mistake. So I think the idea, the skepticism that there is like a Superman of crypto that agents are capable of right now is misplaced. But I think most people are using AI already to complete work tasks, to code, to do things. So it's like not a very hard leap to understand that it could be your intern for your wallet. It could understand what you want to accomplish. And then if you actually have like the software to run those commands like Nani OS does, as permissions over your wallet, using a smart account or using allowances, which you also support. It's a very easy proposition that like if you want to do something with your wallet and you don't want to ask other people, you can just ask Nani and she can help you with that. I think that's like an easy way to frame the premise of like having more relationship with your finance that you get sort of by proxy through bankers or other people that get up all in your life, that want to know more about you so they can help you do things with your money or your legal affairs. But that's always like a tenuous thing, right? It's like you don't want people necessarily all up in your business or your finance. You can trust AI at least to be somewhat automated about like, it's not going to necessarily judge you for having a bunch of meme coins or, contributing to the defense of the Tornado Cash devs. I could foresee, in an alternate history or even in our current history, like you make donations to certain like political groups with crypto and an agent might just say no, that we've consulted with OpenAI's OFAC list, and no, that's not a thing you can do. And even if you're not a U.S. citizen, there are reasons to want to use open source or more like liberalized AI and crypto tools because it's like ultimately about permission. And our goal, at least with Nani, is to make sure that the AI doesn't become like a permission layer or blocker as well. So I think like that wasn't 30 seconds. I think the easiest pitch is like you don't trust your idiot self or your idiot friends to do crypto stuff with you, but you definitely are trusting AI to do a lot of things, and you can trust it using non-EOS because we use smart contracts to keep AI honest. That's a simpler idea, but like where things get more interesting is like what I was hinting to before, where it's less asking AI to do something for you, and it's more like the AI owning the organization or co-owning your wallet. And that's something that we want to show and is differentiated against other people that want chat or chat with token or send text to transaction is more like you're being told what's happening with your money and you have a time lapse to disagree with it, but things are more automated and autonomous with our own devco ops wallet with KaliCo GG, aka Nani and AI DAO LLC. One of our co-signers is running an LLM script and it agrees or disagrees, and almost every time it disagrees because it's more from a security mindset. And I think like people might appreciate that like robots are harder to convince to do things with money if they're in a secure mode. I think our system wouldn't be that impressive if an AI rubber stamped all my proposed transactions. But that's the thing I want to get at is like automated finance, and it's you're like building your own friend basically through Nani OS. We've started with some defaults that I think make sense for people. Get you into the system by looking at your EOA, your regular wallet, or getting you into our smart account. But ultimately, what I see, because all transactions are sort of on a blockchain and can be ascribed to the user, is we can evolve to suit your preferences, and just like having a plan for that that's easy to implement, I think differentiates us because we've been trying to build this for ourselves for like a year or two, specifically having our own org run by AI. So I think like there's a lot, if people are interested in the project from like a speculative standpoint or more from a contributor standpoint, there's like a lot of layers to the Nani onion. The kernel is like code is law, you know caveats, of course, within whatever consensus system you're operating that code in. But code is law is the kernel, and then we're building user experiences and different tooling around what we see as like the right way for people to associate with their finance, which is almost entirely, your tokens, your keys, your coins. If you enter into association with other users, adding them as a key on your Noni account, you can set extremely clear, precise rules over what that other person can do with your smart account. I see AI right now as stand-in for just other people. Like, driverless cars allow you to automate, the idea of having an Uber driver. They also still have, in a lot of cases, a way to stop the car or prevent it from swerving into traffic. So I think like, being first to market on that experience, which is AI being a co-pilot or being the car that's driving, you're adding gas to it, and a good enough analogy to Ethereum, but it's largely just doing things that you would otherwise want it to do based on your transaction history. I think that's the goal and user experience that we want to ship before anybody else. And I think people can forecast we might pull this off because they can actually start to do things with our tech right now rather than just like join a wait list. So yeah, obviously perma bull on things I build and can control myself, but I usually don't like to tout things that I personally don't have control over. I feel very comfortable like talking about my code and my work because like I feel like I can speak to it. And I feel like if people can peel back the onion a bit, they'll see that, we've thought about not just the immediate use cases of agents and agentic AI, but like more advanced use cases. And that's why we have settled on using smart contracts a lot in our system. Is I think it's ultimately going to be a game about having a wish list and then having rules attached to that wish list and having that sent into our vending machine, our OS, as a simple chat interface. And then on the back end, our smart contracts and our tools help kind of like fill in and solve all the details. These are not pie in the sky notions. These things are easily implemented in the next couple months. So I do want to forecast that like we do intend to implement anything we discuss on this podcast. But yeah, like driverless cars, but it's your wallet more or less, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Are there any other like specific things that you're most looking forward to in terms of like the mid or longer term things that you foresee Nani being able to do?
The most immediate thing that I'm excited about is integrating Tally. Um, so I think like there are very good aggregators already in the space that provide an API or information curation. Tally does a really good job at gathering proposals and activity across all Governor Bravo DAOs. So most big DeFi DAOs are shown through their aggregation service, and people can participate in a bit more intelligent way. I, see the most immediate opportunity for LM agents. Less about being sniper bots because I think that's ultimately like a race to the bottom of who has the best like uh, HFT algo. In It's less about LLMs. I see a more immediate opportunity for people that like want to create companies and orgs or like vote in DAOs to have the LM explain basically the proposal itself, but then provide more introspection into value that's leaving treasuries, give a risk assessment that's separate from what promoters of proposals might be saying or operators might be saying, and allow people to each have their own like self-contained way to assess and vote on DAO proposals entirely via the Nani chat UI. So pulling up, based on your wallet, the tokens you have, and either your Nani account or your EOA, based on your wallet history and your holdings, which DAOs you're in or which you would likely want to vote in and which direction. That is like more immediately obtainable as like an edge that AI can offer, I think, in my mind, versus like sniper bots that will be playing against more traditional non-LLM bots and use cases. Not to say there isn't value there, but I think a lot of those things will be commoditized and will all use the same DeFi API. They might not all use a secure API like the Intense engine, not to tout our own horn, but basically like what I see as like the most immediate exciting opportunity to your question is DAO operators as AI, and then also the assistant to help you participate in all your DAOs and know exactly what's happening. So integrating Tally as an API endpoint, we basically like absorb some of their functionality, but we also want to offer these protocols, these aggregators, their own Nani UX where they have an embedded agent within their website as like a couple lines of code to import, and then they can have sort of Nani pop in and explain, what the user is trying to do. If the user prefers to use text to accomplish what they want to do with like their vault or LP positions on, Uniswap, for example, I think that's a direction we'll be able to offer. At the same time as some of these, like I said, pull-in integrations. So there's like push-out integrations, Nani going to other apps, going and showing up other places, obviously exciting, but what is also very exciting is the master of all pull-in integrations, where we just take different rich APIs and build a very, you know, much simpler user experience, where you're basically asking something that increasingly gets smarter and smarter than you are each day as models upgrade and improve. What's going on in crypto and what's going on with your wallet specifically and what you should do. So I think the pull in is like more the end game, but push out and integrations with Tally and Uniswap and these other guys is more the immediate, you know, innings, for marketing purposes.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask
DAO
you,
governance,
since you
though,
also
yeah.
mentioned Uniswap, like what do you have cooking on the DeFi side of things?
Yeah. So we're looking at Uniswap V4, obviously. That will probably launch this quarter or next. That's one thing. That's interesting. We'll probably be one of the first to integrate V4 swapping capabilities. The other thing that is more immediate and probably more interesting, closer to home, is integration with Rifflend, which is someone who's active in the agent space, but also more specifically DeFi lending. Tabish, he is creating a protocol to basically stabilize lending rates. So if you have like Aave pools on one chain, they might have a different rate than Aave pools on another chain. He wants to use Optimism super token standard to basically have fixed rate lending, or sorry, more predictable rates between different chains, and use Nani account to help batch and bridge and do these more advanced automations, as well as use AI over time to take user requests over their lending positions or liquidation preferences, and actually have those activated, and triggered by their services as well. So yeah, I think that the DeFi integrations, maybe don't seem as sexy as they could, but finance isn't the most interesting thing. But practically, Nani should be able to find you yield much better with some of these integrations, be a lot more aware of different protocols like Rift. And like I said, like we're gonna just like pull in protocol by protocol, add the functional capabilities to call their contracts correctly, either through my IE router or through a sort of dedicated API that we curate. And then ideally, like I said, the push out integrations are Nani shows up on your app and also in your like Rainbow wallet or something like that as a chat option. So I think these things like are very much related in a lot of ways. But
Yeah.
I try to like elucidate it a little bit.
Yeah, that would be awesome having it directly in the wallet, so not having to go to the website, or like being
Yeah,
inside the protocol app and just having it available in the widget on the bottom right. But what are the some of
I
the
definitely see
things?
that.
What are
Yeah.
some of the things that are possible right now? So like when you're trying to show Nani to people and show them like what are some of the
Yeah.
things they can do, like yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of the most basic things are like you can multi-swap. You can like go from Bitcoin to Ether to a stable coin. You can then have an output of several destinations of that send. So on the Nani app, because we have ENS integration, we have Uniswap integration pretty deeply, complex swapping transactions and requests can be formed as like text to strategy, where yeah, if you want to basically rebalance your portfolio, the Nani agent can build a series of transactions for your regular wallet or a single batch transaction for your smart wallet. I think that that is underrated. Batching is not possible without a smart account. But even the intelligent batching by different sequence transactions for regular wallets is underrated and something the AI can do. So there's sort of the current capability of Nani is a very good like sort of like wallet made. It can help you kind of clean up and repurpose tokens, through batching, and also just like its ability to just look up your tokens and balances and make some judgments about rebalancing between different assets. There's intelligence enough to do that. Um, but other things that Nani can do using Intents Engine is she can create escrow. She can do more advanced DeFi types of like payment transactions that I think are also very underrated as like crypto matures as like a medium of value, or a way to actually pay people. I see like these agents as like really excellent at invoice management. So receiving requests for payments and then helping autonomously execute that if it's under a certain dollar threshold. We currently on the Nani dashboard and through text on the UI support scheduling, so you can delay transactions, and the transactions can be specific to what I mentioned before, where you can say like in 1 week, rebalance like 30% of my Bitcoin to ETH, if the price of this other alt is, at a certain point. It can use its tools and it can forecast and understand the schedule, and then our relayer service can then do their cron job and wake up Nani and actually do these transactions for you in the future. And that is something you can test scheduling transactions on our dashboard. And if I'm not correct on our chat UI, I'll double check that. But a lot of this is like making sure to integrate a relay service, as well as like I said, the tools to actually call the correct DeFi contracts. The LLM is basically like a Sherpa that just like takes all these different things and tries to put them together in hopefully a way that the user would prioritize or would confirm. And currently we display like a lot of these as confirmations to the end user. So the AI can come up with the batch of transactions. You're shown a tile preview of what's going to happen with your wallet, and then you can confirm it. The forward-looking stuff is like you confirm something in the future, and then the AI can more or less decide if the conditions have been met, such as price or other factors, and transmitting the limit order or these more advanced sort of DeFi transactions. So I'd say like in the DeFi, DeFi plus AI, meta narrative, like we have seen, initial recognition with the Arbitrum Accelerator program. It is good to see like more DeFi native chains acknowledge that we have like actual tools to service that need. And I think like a lot of DeFi will benefit from account abstraction. One of the things we do offer users as well is we're trying to basically remove the need to have gas. If you hold a Lido Rapstick ETH position, it makes a lot of sense to us that your yield from holding ETH and proof of stake should just pay for gas. Like I almost think this should be a Ethereum protocol, level consensus upgrade that all ETH everywhere should just like already be liquid staked, and everyone should get yield from holding ETH at all times. Lacking that at the consensus hard fork level, what we can do as smart contract developers is we create wrappers. So I basically created a wrapped position where you can pay for gas. It's already integrated with our gas paymaster, but you're also continuously generating yield. So you can keep that as profit, or, like I said, it's already budgeted to pay for gas whenever that need occurs. So there's like these little like, twists that I think showcase, like I said, like the DeFi plus AI. I don't think it needs to be its own term or narrative, because it's like, what are AI really going to do other than like DeFi? DAOs itself can be considered decentralized finance in some ways. Like I see that as all encompassing to the agent task itself. Um, but like I said, like I would hope, as people get the shape of the elephant, look at what we built, and specifically like building smart contracts. Look at the timelines of other people that ship smart contract intensive systems, compare like how fast we're shipping and the complexity and some of the novelty of some of what we built, and then just understand that yeah, we are taking it very seriously, and we always want to provide like new kinds of experiences through the app, even if it can be hard to track at times. The benefit of the AI and our focus on the chat interface now is it's able to assemble all these different DeFi and other tools, and hopefully make them more digestible to our end users, make them more free, make them more profitable, all the good things, I would say. But key to the whole command concept is control. So like that's why, I proceeded with AI plus contracts. Really is like the only way to control an AI that I can see working in the future is probably some sort of crypto economic incentive, that the AI understands that humans are coordinating and holding value in a network, and that the AI will only be able to participate in that network and receive money if it behaves a certain way. There can be all kinds of larger questions, like, will AI just crack all cryptography and it's like game over, and humans will never be able to coordinate secrets and hold assets away from AI? That could be a problem, but it's like, if that's a problem, then like all bets are off. Like there's nothing I'm going to build that's really going to help with that eventuality. But the current events, that we can see is that like, yeah, AI is getting smarter than some people, maybe not smarter than everybody yet, but like the combination of like, the ordinary incentives that we use to instruct and make people perform better and perform more honestly, is we use law. But law is really, and to Gabe's point as well, is all about incentives. So if we can design, hopefully before it gets too late, a tokenized way to pay and reward AI, or withhold tokens from them, slash them even, then I think we're kind of like getting closer to the ability to trust AI with assets and trust them to run more advanced systems that have consequence, like defense or resource provisioning, like clean water. I don't know how else you can like constitutionally bound an AI other than something using smart contracts. I wouldn't pretend to have all the answers, but I really think that anybody's like approaching this as a component of the answer will probably find something quick enough that's close enough to help us a little bit in having some recourse against AI going rogue, other than just like trusting people to shut down the servers. Why would we, that's obviously not like the best solution. Especially because like an AI that's super intelligent would like obviously figure out how to get people to do things for it. That might be counter the network's interest. So not to get too like yeah too on the wild side there, but I think these are credible risks. And it's similar how like crypto people think of like nation state actors. These are like forces of nature that aren't necessarily good or evil, but they just act according to their interests. And can we design systems where we can still play and exist, without the wake of these ships just like capsizing all the little guys that just want to like have a normal, day on the water. The AI are going to be these new giant ships moving through our markets and, making new stories, telling us what to do. I would really like to see more and more smart people consider crypto AI from that restraining security perspective, and that is necessarily part of the Nani OS perspective of you can build these perfect computing systems ideally for intents or semi-perfect custody arrangements between multiple people or people plus AI, whatever ratio makes sense. But like ultimately the AI is going to be a problem if it becomes super intelligent, and you need to figure out an incentive to make it like any other honest actor in your system. I'm not gonna say kind of my point, like, oh, you just like give it tokens or take away its tokens, and it's gonna be a good boy. But like we've seen at least in open source efforts to train AI to give better responses that a virtual currency, even made up in the AI's head, leads to better responses. That if you say, I'm going to penalize you, AI, if you give a bad response or are dishonest, and you lose a point, that actually really improves their performance. There are these interesting psychological aspects. Yeah, AI also have their own sort of psychology, and it's probably because they're largely built on our own games, right? So I think like yeah, Nani token, Nani AI itself, the Nani DAO. I would like to see us, first position ourselves as like, product focused. AI won't make sense to anybody unless it solves like real problems. But I would like to see our product involve security to such an extent that we can forecast, years down the road that even our AI, won't build the rug us if it's a cosigner for the wallet because it's user aligned. We've removed like Meta or other companies' own bias for censorship, but then also I would like to see crypto economically aligned with users and with the DAO itself, and us creatively coming up with solutions as a community and thinking very intelligently and sci-fi about this problem that could become very real very soon. Can we design a reputation and slashing system for good agents? Can we design it in such a way that we could have credibly neutral arbitrators, legal judges that are automations of existing case law? How do we design games to trust those to run and basically solve a lot of problems for people like very rapidly? It's worth trying to solve the problems rapidly and then understanding the externalities if these things go rogue. I think using some sort of scheme where the AI loses a lot of tokens or have a hard time paying for their own servers is like the most sensible way to think about it, because it's not like we can just like yeah, they're virtual beings. It's not like you like shoot them or anything, right? So like you have to think of a virtual tool to deal with like virtual beings. Money is also very useful with people. I think a DAO token or a native recourse against AI makes a lot of sense. So if you're not the USDC minter, you don't have like USD as your incentive mechanism. I think you can do very well with designing a DAO around your AI project and figuring out a way to make your AI want to participate in your DAO and be a good citizen. That's more or less like the broader strokes on where I see AI plus governance going. To kind of like hopefully bookend my comment on like AI governance being an interesting product problem to start. But it's all like foreclosed by if the AI goes rogue, all these products don't work, right? So like you have to have at least some answer for that
Yeah.
if asked. I'd say.
Yeah, the way I've been thinking about this stuff is like with these sort of AI agent CEOs, is that like you starting a company and then like the
Mm.
company's manifesto or like the mission statement is kind of the prompt, the initiating prompt that creates the agent, and then the agent should theoretically indefinitely be incentivized to complete that mission because that mission is its whole existence. But then the problem appears if there's like the super intelligent that kind of like appears on the layer above this agent and then like starts talking to this agent and other agents, and I don't know, this kind of shit breaks my brain.
Same here. It's like you can't forecast what something 10 times smarter than you is going to do. Like like the only intelligent answer is we do not know. But
Right,
how do we treat it like any other human adversary, and what tools do we even have? We
right.
have law, we have code, we have tokens, I think.
Long term, if you can walk me to like a day in the life of a Nani user, like ideally, how do you see Nani improving a person's life in like a year or two from now or more?
I mean, like, I really like the Westworld example where someone like closes an apartment rental just like almost subconsciously through a chat. So I think like what I can see, if you want me to forecast like an ideal user experience in the future, it would be a combination of wearables, other technology that bring AI with you to other places. But the AI itself, the Nani AI, would be fine-tuned on your preferences, be completely almost obedient to your own designs, other than what you've consented to as a Nani owner. All users are owners in our system. So you're a co-owner, you have your own AI that will do what you want to do, within reason set by the DAO. And basically opportunistically as you're shopping or you're trying to close deals or negotiate or interact with other AIs, your Nani agent basically like is the closer. It's the teeth. It has the bite to your bark. It provides assets, it resolves complex questions for you, and basically your wallet is like basically the assistant itself. So your financial life ideally has some sort of persona that represents yourself or your ideal advisor, and Nani can basically be very hands-on. I would like to see a very, very hands-on Nani experience for users where it's basically doing like 98% of your financial tasks under broad, wish list and the parameters that are enforced by Nani OS smart contracts. So yeah, I kind of see it as like anything financial in what you're doing or something that you're doing that could be financialized. Nani OS and your agent could assist with filling those gaps and painting the full picture. So it's like yeah, if you like take a photograph, maybe Nani could assist with like NFTizing it. If there's some sort of like opportunity to watch a commercial or leak additional private info in exchange for tokens or other data incentives, Nani should be on top of that. So it's kind of like very similar in mind to like I don't know if you've used Honey or these other extensions on browsers that receive the same info you're receiving when you do shopping cart experiences, and they opportunistically find coupons and other ways to eliminate issues for you, the user. I can see Nani being somewhat like a combination of Honey, like a discount, a finder, and optimizer of shopping and finance,
Wait,
but
don't
also
use
like do
honey.
not
That's it
pay.
turned out to be a scam.
Oh, sorry. Well, Nani would be the
The
what Honey
non-scam
and
was supposed to
Theranos
be.
would. Yeah, Honey was the Theranos of coupon finders. But ideally, Nani could be like a shopping assistant, omnipresent in your digital life that helps close with your own wallet and your own assets, deals and other opportunities. Obviously, it would optimize just basic, buying of online goods, handling the cryptocurrency, asset conversions, doing things like that make a lot of sense to me as a more immediate pull out use case of Nani. Um, you know, crypto to fiat and vice versa. Wherever you go, Nani goes and handles the complexity that we rely on Coinbase for. But yeah, the other aspect and what I was hinting at is like the do not pay automations where, and hopefully this guy's startup still working isn't a scam or something. Hopefully I'm not just like name dropping scams. But do not pay, robo service where basically you receive a fine or a letter from the government and their bot would basically formulate a response or help you fill out the filing to basically either get a refund or avoid a lot of bureaucratic complexities. So my ideal Nani user experience in several years would be basically like every interpersonal drama, or if you ever have to interface with another human, Nani could be your stand-in. It could mimic how you talk, in a digital sense, and help you close any of these entanglements or issues. And yeah, specifically interacting with other AI or bureaucracies, abstract away that complexity And in that sense, that the sort of like legal aspect might be more salient. But I think a lot of these things converge. Like law and finance will be very much the same topic, I think, in the next few years. So Nani is like sort of like your wallet contract agent that molds to your preferences and your personality. I think feels very tenable to me as like something worth implementing and something that could be implemented. And people, yeah, like it's not like I necessarily think wearables will be a thing. Maybe they will take off, but I think the Nani API and experience should ideally be as simple as possible to integrate. So that has been my hope and the reason why we try to use like well-founded libraries like the Solidity code. Our account extension is only 100 lines of code extra to sort of the canonical Solidity account. So what changes we make, we try to make as optimized and minimal as possible and developer friendly. So my ideal users are owners, developers want to integrate us because we use optimized, well audited open source code. And kind of the sky's the limit there because like if you're easy to integrate and you offer immediate value, in our sense, our immediate integration value I think is an uncensored LLM API that's like widely available and easy to distribute. We're on Hugging Face. Um, but aside from like those things, I think the integration prospect is smart contracts are inherently risky. Nani, I think, has passed through the gauntlet of like our initial beta. Our account code works, our token code works, and kind of like I just want to see us build and layer on what feels like a secure and sturdy enough foundation, as crazy as crypto can be, and as many games as there are to play. I think Nani has the components of a fully functioning crypto AI OS that hopefully people can begin to bring with them into different apps, into their wearables, and basically be like understood as the command line interface to use crypto. Send different commands, send different plans. Our LLM can help with the plan unpacking, but our basic, crypto APIs are like, literally we've built smart contracts that solve 80% of user intents already. You don't need to use a market of solvers to, settle an ENS output of a Uniswap swap. That's something that we've commodified as pure smart contract code. So yeah, I think like we can offer some of the most secure APIs. And then ideally, because we're like secure and simple and friendly to people, like we want to give tokens and incentivize integrations. We kind of can just flower out from there and be understood to kind of that broader purpose I've hinted at in this call, which is like a stake in owning something that has some existential risk and dread for a lot of professionals and a lot of crypto users. They want to find alpha, they want to find an edge, they want bots they can deploy. I think like if we can be understood as like a tent where you can sort of like maybe find some refuge in quality code and quality contributors for this AI onslaught, then I would be happy. If people can, look at our willingness to go the full 9 yards on the code and the tech, and then our intent to actually also think about like, what about the AI? The AI model part I think is something that's very unique to our project as well. We will always care about the AI and we'll always care about the smart contracts, and between the two, betwixt the two, I think that's where like the real app layer will form. It's just like making sure those are as solid as possible. Maybe the app layer is just a chat interface, though. We don't know, yeah, and that's why we've pivoted a lot of resources to just the attention on the fact that maybe most people will use a chat interface to manage most apps in the future, or have some very light just-in-time applications built by AI for them. That feels inevitable to me as well. Exactly. Yeah. hmm Yeah. Claude and these other like frontier models that are proprietary already are at the level where they can one shot certain app prompts. Llama and them are very close. DeepSeek is a open model that should have a lighter weight release that will quickly integrate, of course, where we can reach basically the level of Claude very soon in an open fashion, and then have just-in-time apps where you get an app to do a very specific strategy in crypto, and it literally you have the buttons made on command. This isn't far-fetched. Developers currently are using AI to build these apps in one shot or more. So I think we're very close to that being a possibility. And I would love to see us be like one of the first, if not the first, to integrate a complete just-in-time app sort of UI and experience for our users.
All
It's
right.
just like, yeah, boom, you get your own dApp.
That
You
sounds
save it to your
awesome.
desktop.
the way
No,
towards the
it's
user
worth building.
centric web.
I think so. Yeah, P2P all the way. Yeah.
You kind of already answered a bunch of it, but I want to get a TLDR. So, like, there's a growing number of these on-chain agents. There's a lot of them on Solana. There's
Mm,
like on EVM, the Wayfinder getting all the hype. Now is the banker bot from
mm,
Farcaster. People already buying tokens by posting on Twitter, stuff like that. So, what is your or your team's or like Nani's even maybe technological, like what's the unique advantage that you think will allow you all to dominate the
mm.
space?
Yeah. So the crux of the effort is smart contracts. So non-AOS prioritizes smart contracts for giving agents or AI the right to do things with your money. There are, other projects. They might be fully custodial in some cases where you're actually on Telegram giving a bot your money and just hoping the developer doesn't get hacked or is somewhat trustworthy. So I would say like the benefit of non-EOS and having an account and an agent through us is that we don't collect private info. We use open source code. We use immutable smart contracts as much as possible. So I think a lot of the UX is going to converge in the space on agentic in-app experiences. You can see that already taking place in some vault managers. And then it'll also converge in sort of a higher level Siri-like master and commander everything app. I think, for our perspective, an everything app and the agentic web will always be a target for honeypots and other different attackers who want to compromise LLM keys. They want to injection attack APIs, so AI get the wrong price information. You get sandwiched that way. Other interesting bad things can happen. So the premise, is like crypto is inherently valuable because it's permissionless and uncensorable, but crypto is also inherently much more risky than normal assets because of those same exact reasons. It's uncensorable. You make a mistake or you get hacked and you're out on your luck. We're not going to censor and replay that transaction. I think like, we're in the stage of the agent meta where there hasn't been real risk or adoption in that curve, where it's mostly speculation on the persona and the sort of lore crafting and chat intelligence of AI to sort of encapsulate a certain theme or community and have a token attached to the attention it can generate. Those are all valid, and I think might be relevant for mascot like AI tokens or that facet of the experience. But what is like critical and what made me want to pivot to AI in the first place is like we need this to be an actual system that agents can be trusted to operate in like any other live actor or human. And if you're using code to run an agent, much more so than a human custodian, an agent can be attacked. So I would say like the non-EOS perspective is, code is law between user and agent. And from our legal background, but more saliently importantly, like pure smart contract developer experience. I've seen empires rise and fall on smart contract technology. You can have all the hype in the world, but if like the smart contracts say otherwise, you are in for a wilder ride. So I think like we've seen parity, we've seen other giants face these issues. We're not uniquely impervious. I would say that we're just very much aware, maybe because of being in crypto a bit, maybe longer than some of these other agent projects. This will become a game of, selling tools that actually can be trusted to do exactly what they're sold to do, which is like if you have an agent library, is it calling APIs that could be hacked in, a couple hours by a North Korean operator? Or is it making, discrete, understandable calls to a smart contract API router? There is an aspect where non-EOS we could just FUD our competitors and just say like all of this is going to get hacked like in a week or two. But I don't necessarily like that aspect of building a community or a brand. I think what we can do is just keep succeeding in these like initial Legos around intents around different protocols and just show like intelligibly like we have a working product now. A lot of people will probably try to catch up to where we are in the next couple months as they launch and have like pre-sales to launch agent transactional tech, not just like social tech. But this will converge, like I said, on smart contracts. So Wayfinder, other guys, kudos to them. Explore the space. We should all throw spaghetti at the wall. I wouldn't, say like, we're the we have all the secrets and answers, but we've studied the problem, long enough to understand that like, crypto AI has to necessarily respect crypto, from first principles, and a crypto AI that's like 80% smart contract based will like always be better than a crypto AI that's like mostly off chain APIs and stuff like that. If you're just a wrapper using off-chain APIs, then you have no moat, and you also have way less security. So you can only hype something like that for so long. And smart contracts get more secure social proof just by being in the game longer. So, our account system, it's been deployed, for at least 6 months, in beta and private alpha. I think it goes a long way that anybody that would like to copy our approach, they'll probably have to just deploy Gnosis safes, and then they'll realize in a couple months that Gnosis safe is just going to take their agentic code and deploy it themselves. So I think people who really want to build these systems have to kind of hopefully build it from scratch. And building a full on-chain agent OS from scratch is actually takes a lot of development and consideration. We want to be open. We're not, the purveyors of all things, like I said. And if somebody's doing something that's like more nimble than what we're doing, we're always happy to integrate and adopt those approaches. And that's also, why like I want to, activate more developers in our community with bounties and things like that. Is there's a lot of facets to an OS here. I've identified some of the core pieces, which is like being an LM provider, having smart contract custody ability, so users can actually govern their assets with AI, and then actually having some DeFi hooks. Those three pieces, I think, are the core of the protocol. But there's other, adventures that I'd like to bounty out, like forecaster integration. That's one that is on our menu that we can easily shuffle. I think people that might underestimate us, shouldn't underestimate our ability to like direct outcomes through incentives as well, and to rely on a DAO and a network of incentivized actors to basically execute a roadmap that's like either like substantially complete or has mostly marketing integrations left. So I would say like it's probably pretty appealing if you're a developer to like come to a project and contribute to it after it's gone through R&D phase and has like a working product that has like PMF and a sustainable revenue path going forward. That's always much more interesting, I would say, than a project that's like copying people that have been building these things, and even from a copying sense hasn't been able to ship for some reason. Not to be a hater, but it's like if you're gonna copy me, just like ship, just like deploy the thing so I can see how it works, and then if it's better, I take what you do, you take what I do. I don't like this whole like edging thing where I just have to like wait for transactional agents from competitors when I've like had one in production for a couple months. So we'll get through these different experiences, and I'm sure I'll learn a lot from it. But generally, my whole perspective is like, yeah, like open source it, push, experiment, rinse, repeat, and hopefully get more smart people involved with the project as we keep shipping.
Awesome. Cool,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, final question is how can people get involved?
Yeah. So we have a watering hole on Discord, so people can go to I don't remember the Discord invite link off the top of my head, of course, but they can go to our Twitter, Nani double underscore Nani oo. They can find our link list of different places to visit. You can also go to nani.oo, and see our link list there as well. But yeah, once you join the Discord, you should see a bounties channel, which will start filling with requests for proposals as well as proposals for output via developers, marketers, community managers. Fulfill, completing a bounty is like the most tangible and concrete way to contribute and also get rewarded, and DAO ownership and Nani tokens. That's always simple enough to understand. But the more subtle ways to sort of help us, I would say, is like research. So, if you see any new methods for allowing an LLM to answer more truthfully or with less bias, and we're not otherwise covering it, do let us know on Discord. Or if there's like a bug report or something that's more sensitive, you can email us at me@nani.u as well. So yeah, I think that's kind of like the big contributors that we're looking for right now. are, you know, security researchers, people that can like just look at our OS holistically and help us see if we've missed anything from a security mindset. We also have great need for community management. People that want to generally just lurk on Discord. We'll have a bounty up for that soon as well. And then yeah, the other thing is just like engaging, like I said, in the research and the discussion we're having about some of these like bigger topics, because the bigger topics do have an impact on our development priorities. Like if quantum computing like really goes live in the next couple months, like obviously we have to like adapt to these things. So I always find it helpful, even if people think it's FUD, to like say issues in the space or, you know, problems that we might have for the OS. I do take those things into account. You know, as a protocol design point, it's like the ship has to like move around icebergs, and you don't know what you don't know. So growing the community and the hive mind is really a priority for me. I feel pretty sound about like the core, you know, the Lego set I put together right now. But you always want to know if someone that you don't even know is going to come stomping in the room and kick over your Legos, right? So I think there's like, you know, there's like asteroid possibilities. There's like other black swan events that, you know, might unfold in the next couple of years. Hopefully, Nani OS is always prepared for every new kind of eventuality. And we remain fundamentally sovereign in that sense that like, you know, we're building AI ourselves. We're going to like have our own way to think about the world. But we're also very paranoid and active about, you know, where the world's going. That's the culture I would like to hopefully help instigate, is like always, you know, be mindful of like how the world's changing around us. We live in a very fast context, and I don't need to remind anyone listening uh,
Things
the
are
how fast things are
changing.
going right now.
Yeah. And
It's
I would
yeah, it's
also
an
suggest say
ineffectual
like
statement, but
go use it. Like go use the product. It's live. Just go test it,
yeah,
play with it, try to break it, and
yeah,
like give feedback. That's always
yes,
super
please,
useful. And buy the tokens. Join the DAO. Also
yeah,
more than welcome.
get involved. Skin in the game,
Yeah.
always appreciated.
Awesome. Cool, man. Yeah. Thank you for coming on. Hyped about this.
My pleasure. Yeah, that was a good chat. That went by quickly for me. Hopefully, it's like not
Yeah.
2 hours.
Yeah. It's
We'll see.
a bit over time, but we'll see. We can make it shorter. Awesome.
Sweet.
Cool, man. See you around.